Oh, Benji, it's one of the problems of working. Say hello. Who's this?
Who have you got there?
Benji, come here. Who's this?
Oh,
That's one of the problems of working from home.
I was expecting.
So I have an ever-present Dalmatian who is very into everything.
Okay, thank you for taking part in this chat with me.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. So we know each other through our old sort of networks in Surrey. You kindly came and spoke at an event that I put on quite a few years ago now, an economic forum. And you were fantastic, really inspiring. At the time you said, you know, if any other opportunities to reach out and sort of have chats like this, then to do so. So I have. So a little bit about your business. So you're a logistics company with a national reach, if I'm right. So
yeah, we are. So we've got, what are we at now? 24 sites around the UK, and we have fulfillment centres, and we deliver stuff primarily for online customers on the overnight and international, but we've also got loads of same-day clients like Charles Russell, for example, and loads of legal companies, McLaren, etc., etc. So we've been in the same-day courier industry for 28 years. And we've been in the fulfillment side of things for about the last 8 or 9.
Excellent. And you know, people can recognise you from your vans going around. So you're very distinct.
Yeah, they're
vans with the police branding.
Psychedelic, aren't they? So yes. Oh, sorry. So this is the challenge of home working. So that's the first dog pass, but no doubt there will be another dog pass at some point.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And it's fair to say people in your business are really passionate about what they do. And you know, yourself, you've got a passion for business and, as I said before, social media. You know, and you're very active, you know, committed to the gender equality issues and those kind of things. So yeah, what sort of inspires you and keeps you going?
I don't know, ready for breakfast?
Right, yeah.
No, it's not. No, gluten intolerance, so it's definitely not ready break. What inspires me? Oh, sorry. Benji. I have to feed a Dalmatian. That's what really inspires me.
Absolutely, yeah.
No, I've always had a massive passion for business. You know, my mum had a boutique. My dad had his own business for years and years and years. I'm fundamentally unemployable. Benji, you really are going to have to move. I'm fundamentally unemployable.
I have to say, I'm loving Benji's cameo here. Yeah, so, you know, that's going to be one of the things.
Now we've got the Zoom bloopers. Benji's going to be the star of the show. It's fun. We actually started a hashtag at Diamond called Diamond Dogs, and he was the first focus. And now we've got pictures of dogs around the sort of Diamond network in the UK. No, so my mum had a boutique and I worked in there from the age of 12. My dad always had his own business and he was always sort of self-employed. And we're kind of divided in the family now between people who sort of like work in their own businesses and people who work in the NHS. So we've got the good split between the two of those.
Wow.
So we've got some very interesting insights in terms of the current crisis that we're undertaking. So I really got the idea of the hard work that you had to do to be a sort of self-employed person from a very early age. You know, my dad was always kind of working, but he took such a joy in it, in being the purveyor of his own destiny. And I think I decided pretty early on, I only had sort of 2 proper full-time PAYE jobs and decided pretty early on after that I didn't want to have a boss. And so then had my own company, and that's over 28 years ago I started that. I was only 20 when I started it. So,
wow.
You know, I've fundamentally been self-employed my whole life. And I think if you didn't have the passion for it, there's no way you could persist over that period of time. You know, I mean, I started in the recession that was, after the 1987 crash. It was only 92 when I started. And that was when people were handing back the keys of their houses and nobody had any money and all the rest of it. And then, of course, there was the 2008, which kind of massively impacted, you know, in the UK, 2010, 2011. And we found that was a period where we started to change our business model and actually grow out of that. And then, of course, there was Brexit a couple of years ago, which has been a disaster, you know, for our international kind of logistics side of things. And we were just coming to terms with potentially there was a light at the end of the tunnel with Brexit. And then, of course, you've got this, you know, global pandemic, which I don't think, as much as I know, because of the planning that my mum my mum worked in the NHS, my sister works in planning of critical care in the NHS now, which is really, really under the spotlight. They knew a pandemic was coming, so that's been known for a really long time. I can remember my mum talking about that, 25 years ago. I've actually got a Dalmatian actually chewing my finger now, so you're not being very useful, Benji. Yeah, so that's been really interesting. So yeah. I'm being very distracted. I'm going to have to get some.
Yeah, we'll manage through. So, I mean, these are...
It definitely provides entertainment. Yeah, so I think the big thing is that you have to be really persistent. So if you're not really persistent, you're never going to last that long in business. And if you don't have joy for it every day, and if you don't really enjoy what you do every day, and that's not to say that there's going to be days that aren't going to be incredibly hard. I've had to sit through some, not conversations in our business necessarily, because we're doing, pretty well compared to an awful lot of other businesses out there. And I'm truly grateful for that. But, you kind of look at this and you're just going, there's been some bad days in the last couple of weeks, and you have to be very,
I mean, it's challenging times for everybody at the moment, and I think there are just more challenging times to come. I mean, this in itself, as you've shown, sort of the new norm working from home for many people, the challenges of managing maybe children at home, or dogs, photobombing your Zoom calls. Is this normal for you? Do you work from home very much? I mean, what's your view now? What can you see? You're sat here with me.
Do you know, I was one of those great cynics who thought that working from home was a skive, that actually being present was a really important part of it. And I work from home on Fridays anyway. That's part of my kind of remit, because I have project work that I have to do. And if I'm in the office, my job is to be present and to interact with people. And I use my time outside of the office to do the stuff that I need to produce, to create stuff. Yeah. So I tend to work from home very early in the morning. You can blame my daughter for this, but she basically didn't give me very much sleep when she was very little. She's now 27, I hasten to add.
And you still hold it against her?
No. No, I'm actually extremely grateful for it, because my most productive period of the day is between about 4 or 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. before I walk the dog. And then I walk the dog and I sort of get out and about. And then I often sort of head into the office. Fridays, I tend to work from home. So I've always worked from home on the Friday. But we have encouraged our entire business, where possible, to really embrace this safe working. So we are running our service centres, which are still running because they're fundamental in keeping e-commerce going, and keeping businesses, being able to generate revenue. And some of the stuff we're delivering is incredibly important. We're going to be doing, and we haven't done it yet, so because the military is still doing the outbound stuff at the moment, but we're going to be doing the restocking of the PPE kit to the NHS. So that's a really important part of what we're doing. We're delivering health supplements, Manuka honey, gym equipment to keep people fit, craft materials to keep children entertained, all these things which are, the lifeblood of what people are trying to do. And really importantly, we're giving businesses an income stream, which means they can keep their staff employed, which means they can continue to grow throughout that. So we are continuing to function, but we're very, very conscious of the safety of our team. So, there's been a lot of feedback with regards to some of the bigger warehouses and fulfillment centres, and they've got a lot of people crammed into very small spaces. And that makes it very, very difficult to avoid this sort of 2 metre rule. So, we've been running service centres down to like 2 people, 3 people, and they're still, churning out hundreds and hundreds of consignments a day, but we've found incredibly efficient ways of working, and splitting shifts and all that kind of stuff in order to keep our team as safe as we can. And the
so in terms of responding to this situation, I mean, you're having to, I guess, it sounds like, look at sort of working patterns and how people actually interact with each other, and that must be a huge challenge for a logistics company.
Yeah, it really is. So it's the easy bits were, the directors sort of working from home. We've had to stop on-site launches, so we're launching new service centres almost weekly in the first few months of this year. So we've had to stop that. So we've done some of that kind of remotely, because we still needed to roll them out, for some of the contracts that we had coming on board. So we've, developed a lot of online training, and we've been incredibly quick and dynamic in doing that. And I thank my team for doing that really quickly. We've driven customer services home. We're doing Zoom calls with our whole network rather than actually going out and meeting them. They're doing video tours around their sites so that we can make sure everything's okay.
Are you finding sort of, it sounds like the connectivity and the interaction between teams sounds like you've got that up to speed and it's really important for you guys, or
yeah, we have. I think it's
just letting it flow naturally?
I think morale's really good at the moment, and I think the challenge is going to be if this goes on as long as I believe it's forecast. Now, all the people that we know within the NHS believe that this lockdown experience isn't going to finish any time before this summer. So, the kids, the forecast is that they're not going to go back to school, and B, you're talking, 3-4 months of home working, and I think it will potentially forever change the way we perceive work and workplaces. So I think that's something very interesting that we're going to have to embrace as businesses. But I do believe, particularly when we're looking at work-life balance and a different generation wanting to come to the workplace and all that kind of stuff, then embracing a portion of home working is very important. But, and this is the big myth that I've had completely blown out of the water since I've been home working, the fiction about home working being an easy ride is just something that I've had disproven to me, and I think that's incredibly important. I'm working 15-hour days now because you don't stop. You don't get out of the office. You're there and you're able to continue ad infinitum, and all of a sudden you find your 4 o'clock start, you're not finishing until 9 o'clock at night. And I think that's danger. So I think we're going to have to get used to establishing boundaries on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I am, and my colleagues and people in my networks have said exactly the same. And I think, as you said, the boundaries and learning a new way of working is going to be crucial for our sort of our physical and our mental health.
The other thing is that, and I think this is maybe a girl thing too, when you're at home, and first world problems, we don't have our cleaners and all that kind of stuff at the moment, all of a sudden you find that you're making yourself a cup of tea, then you unload the dishwasher, you think, the kitchen looks a bit of a mess, well, I need to put the tea towels on, so I'll strip the bed and I'll do a bit of laundry and all this kind of stuff. And so you're kind of you're getting engaged in all of that as well. It's very easy to get distracted, but that's changed.
I mean, I don't know about you, but a lot of sort of friends of mine have found themselves sort of being at-home school teachers, as well as sort of trying to keep down their working jobs and trying to manage sort of 7, 8, 9-year-olds who are sort of having tantrums with the schoolwork, and they're having to learn this totally new skill.
I have said I am so grateful. My children are 25 and 27 and self-isolating in their own homes in 2 different parts of the country. I'm extremely grateful for that. But another girlfriend of mine has got 4 children. She's having to homeschool them at home. She actually works for us in marketing, leads our social, and she's got a sign up on her door says, mum is working, and the answer is no, you can't have any more, it's in the fridge, Google it, or stop picking on your brother, so it's quite good.
Oh, so you're managing to keep in touch with sort of friends and family? Say your kids are sort of across the country now, so that a challenge for you? Do you have to find time for them as well, I guess?
Yeah, you really do. So I've been having a virtual glass of wine with my mum. Actually, yesterday I drove via Winchester, and my mum, I'm sure did you say you were a carer for your dad?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm not a carer for my parents in any way, shape or form, but they're in their mid-70s. They're one of the 1.5 that are having to self-isolate for 12 weeks, and they're finding it extremely tough. But it's quite funny. My partner, Adi, has parents in his 80s, in their 80s, not his 80s. I'm not quite there yet. And so we get these sort of texts from our parents saying, we've run out of essentials. And my mother's essentials yesterday were Sauvignon Blanc, cream and garlic. And I'm going,
absolutely, yeah.
So I'm going to go to a meeting with the Department of Health, and I'm going to nip back via Tesco's to get cream, garlic and Sauvignon Blanc.
All essentials, yeah, absolutely.
And shredded wheat for my father, so and a couple of bottles of Melbourne for him as well.
Do your doorstep drop, absolutely.
Exactly. So, so I'm virtual glass of wine with friends and family. House Party's been really good for that. I think loads of people have discovered House Party as an app. And then for the work side of things, it's Zoom. And I think, things like WhatsApp are really, really useful. I had a great gift a couple of weeks ago. My son presented me with my first grandchild. And I was very,
congratulations.
Thank you very much. And so Violet is her name, and she's a couple of weeks old, and it was literally the day before lockdown. So so 2 days before lockdown, so we my mum and I managed to get down to Plymouth and see the baby, and then they made the announcement that everything was shutting down on the Tuesday. So we had to come back a day early. My mum went into self-isolation, and the rest of it, you know, I had to get back to my business effectively.
And baby and family doing well?
They're doing really well, actually, and in a beautiful kind of way. Bar the fact that obviously, you know, they have the new parent fears of wanting to take the baby out and worrying about, you know, what's kind of going on. I think it's been quite a beautiful time for them, because they've had this period of time whereby they can just be in this little nest of them and their new baby, and she's doing really well. So she's putting them loads away, and we've got, you know, Facebook video, and we're chatting all the time, and she's getting really alert, and she's so cute. So
Oh, excellent. I don't know about you, but I found in this time that people are really looking at ways sort of to help each other beyond the normal, and that's something that sort of I felt, you know, how can we not just sit here but sort of help those people in our networks, you know, not just our friends and family, and obviously we're all appreciative of what the people in the NHS are doing, but there are many people and organisations like you have got frontline staff. I've got sort of friends who are working in sort of companies that provide cleaning services. You know, how can people sort of help your business or your employees? You know, what are you looking for people to do in these difficult times?
Okay, so we've got frontline drivers, of course, and the drivers need to keep driving. I think everybody has become incredibly grateful, not only for the sterling work that the NHS are doing, particularly the frontline workers within the NHS, but there's a whole plethora of people that are unable to down tools, and they are exposing themselves to exponentially more risk than anybody else at this point in time. And so we need to be very, very grateful. So yes, we've, you know, given them gloves to wear, you know, masks where possible, and PPE kit has been very difficult to get hold of for frontline workers as well. And obviously we've got antibacterial sort of wipes, and we're keeping their workspaces clean. But in terms of things like drivers, you know, we've had some issues within the Road Haulage Association, of which I'm a proactive member, and the Institute of Couriers, whereby people have been refusing drivers bathroom facilities because of threats of kind of COVID-19. So these guys are out on the road. It's very, very difficult. Public toilets are all shut at the moment because of the spread of COVID-19. So things like the common decency of allowing people to utilise facilities would be great. Also, would people please remember to leave a safe distance in terms of collection and delivery. So we've tried to inform all of our clients to leave goods, you know, just at the door of their premises rather than us being able to access. And we've also had to change some terms in terms of proof of delivery. So we've just had to agree name rather than people touching touchpads. And that's very important as well. So appreciating the change of circumstance.
Yeah. So as somebody who may be at home receiving deliveries, so
you should be expecting deliveries to be left at the door, and just confirming that they may well take a photograph of it or something to that effect in order to confirm proof of delivery. I think the other thing to understand is that particularly on the overnight and international side of things, there are going to be delays. So once upon a time, what was a 24-hour service, the reality is that all the major infrastructures are overwhelmed trying to deliver key supplies. And there has to be a sense of priority in terms of food goods, pharmaceuticals, medicines, etc., etc. So if you're getting your knickers in a twist about your ASOS delivery being a couple of days late, you're really not sort of taking into consideration the priority of what society kind of needs. But I would have to say, hands down, 99.9% of people have been absolutely fantastic. But people getting your knickers in a twist about their eBay purchase not being delivered on time, you know, for whatever it may be, is completely inappropriate. So reserve, you know, appreciate key workers. They're often not very well paid for doing the jobs that they're doing. You know, although I'd really like to think our team are on that kind of list. They are very, very much appreciated. They are absolutely keeping ourselves going. They're, you know, keeping businesses going by being able to deliver. So just a little bit of appreciation for them would be good.
I mean, I know from sort of my personal experience, you know, the people that have delivered things to my doorstep, I'm extremely grateful for. So, you know, for me personally, you know, for those people out there, you know, a big thank you. You know, they're helping to support this country.
They really are. And I think there may be moves over the next couple of months whereby, subject to the distribution networks becoming sort of overwhelmed with other kind of priorities, whereby we're just going to have to be accepting of things not being quite so readily available. I mean, when I was shopping for my parents, there was puffed wheat and shredded wheat on the list as well. And there was only shredded wheat available. Now, that's quite weird for us now when we're actually got all these shortages in shops and things. And the reality is that we've all got to look at allocation of kind of resources, and things have got to take acceptable priority. So as long as people just got a little bit of patience, and then we can get through this,
Yeah. That's great. So on a lighter note from that, we're all getting used to working from home. It's challenging for many, usual for some. Have you got any tips for working from home? Do you have a working from home style? Do you make sure that you're, dressed a certain way when you're coming on Zoom calls? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. So, I think Zoom calls make sure you actually brush your hair and do your makeup, don't they? Even the chaps in my organisation. So tips from working at home, and I'm not saying that I'm necessarily doing any of this really, because I'm shocking at administering this. But number one would be is don't work infinitely. I think an awful lot of people are doing that. Start in the morning, and then all of a sudden you find out it's 7 o'clock at night, and you've been sitting cramped at a desk, and that's not very good for you. So I'd say utilise the hour of exercise that we're allowed to have to make sure that you break up your day, and make sure you have your normal sort of breakfast, lunch, and dinner at a period of time. I think that's important. So, and keep to that kind of routine. I would say get dressed in the same kind of clothes that you wear to work every day. That there is a transition, isn't there? Like the mask that we put on to go to work. And I think that helps you maintain a kind of professionalism and feel that is, part of your kind of routine. I think we're all very lucky to have work to do. I think that's incredibly important. I do think that unemployment's going to go up quite a lot. And I think we should be grateful in terms of having that purpose. I think that keeps us motivated at this period of time. I'd also take into account particularly staying in contact with people. So if all of a sudden your team is used to working with each other all the time, we've built in mechanisms to ensure that we're talking all the time. So whether it's a WhatsApp group for the team to be sort of having a chat with, but also group Zoom calls. So we've got a team meet once a week, we've got a network meet once a week, and we've got a daily board meet talking about the things that need to happen. And I actually think supporting video rather than it just being a telephone call makes it a lot more of an interactive process.
And how do you find scheduling that time in? Do you find that's tricky, or are people managing that okay at the moment?
Well, I would say as a leader of a business, my job is to talk to my team. So I wouldn't think that, if you had to look at the priorities of your business, of course it would be continuing to service your clients, and we're doing a really good job of that. But the second priority of your business has got to be keeping your team engaged and motivated. And people are frightened. People are frightened, people are concerned, people need reassurance. And I think it's very important that that you keep communicating and tell people, quite honestly, what things are going on, give them good warning in terms of, changes of direction, explain potentially why you're having to, support a different project rather than something else, because things are changing all the time at the moment, aren't they?
I think communication is absolutely vital at the moment, and I don't think we can sort of talk to each other enough and sort of let each other know what's happening within business and outside as well. I think and
the other thing is that a lot of people are having to have extraordinarily tough conversations, and I acknowledge all of that. But when you're having tough conversations every day, sandwich either side of it with some good news, because we can find good news in things that are happening every day. There are small wins that your business will make regardless, in this work in the time of COVID. So, yeah.
I mean, is there anything on that point you'd like to share? Sort of, is it kindness has been a key thing recently in past sort of few months and while. So is there anything you would like to share, sort of stories from the front line, or, you say you've got family in the NHS, or, any tips you've got for people, sort of, a great podcast to read or something? What would you like to share with people?
Okay, so there's, if you look up pocketlint.com, you can get some really interesting backgrounds for your Zoom meeting, so you don't have to have a Dalmation walking past it.
Great tip.
That's a really good one. There is a huge amount of resources online for businesses. There's a company called the Supper Club, and they've been doing some amazingly proactive discussions around assistance for business within the sort of COVID-19. I'd say in terms of news resources, the FT have been bang on in terms of news breaking and feeding stuff back in terms of businesses. and particularly in terms of the help that's available. And obviously the gov.uk website has been quite useful too. In terms of light inspiration to cheer up your team or whatever, if you look up, I think it's Jib Jab, is a you can make like dancing gnomes and funny things and all that kind of stuff. We've done a few of those to make the team laugh. We've also remembered what people are doing, so the guys that are on the front line at the moment, last weekend, you know, we bought individual specific gifts for them just to say thank you, we really appreciate what you're doing, like gaming vouchers and all that kind of stuff. But also remember that your team at home are feeling lonely and isolated too, so you know, again, we tailored that to whether it was chocolates or whatever it was and all the rest of it, just to say we're not thinking of you. Just because you're not there, we're not thinking of you. Yeah, but we're, you know, it's so a variety of things to do, but make sure people know that you're thinking of them. Do what you can do. We've also opened up, you know, with katelester.com, I used to do a lot of blogs and videos, you know, supporting other businesses, and I've touched base with all the local smaller businesses that I know that have been, you know, quite badly hit by this, particularly people in marketing, advertising, AdWords, you know, oh goodness, even manufacturing. An awful lot of people are having to mothball their businesses.
Yeah.
And just say, we're there for you. If you need to talk, we're here. And, you know, there's been quite a lot of late night conversations. Travel, I've got a couple of friends of mine who've got travel businesses. That's been a nightmare. Physiotherapists, groups of physiotherapy. You know, I've got a friend of mine who runs 4 choirs and a tutoring business, and that's entirely shut down. You know, other people that have got retail premises, you know, and that's been shut down as well. So, you know, we've done a lot of help stuff in terms of getting your business online for retail.
I was going to say, are people looking for alternative ways?
Yeah. And that's so what we're trying to build up as a business is a load of resources so that people can continue to prosper. So you know, we've even launched a business in this time of COVID as well. And luckily the company's TAC, and they deal with essentials like shower gel and hand wash and all that kind of stuff. So buying all that stuff online is a really good way of doing it and ensuring your supply. So we've launched that business, and we're working with a lot of, you know, small businesses in order to support their transfer of their business online.
Excellent. Sounds great. Great work, Kate. It sounds very inspirational again.
Oh, thank you.
You don't disappoint.
Oh, thank you.
So just before we finish up then, what's your sort of home comforts in these very tricky times? You say you work extremely long hours. Wine. It's getting you through.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think the consumption of Sauvignon Blanc in our house has probably increased exponentially. But I think you've actually got to be really careful about that. So, you know, for the first couple of weeks, it felt a little kind of holiday-ish, didn't it? And it was far too easy when
like Christmas. It's like
exactly. So yeah, to get the celebration box out and a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. So no, so I'd say the dog is an amazing sense of, you know, joy and relief, because he's such a numpty that you can't help but laugh. Staying in touch with friends, you know, and you know, ensuring that you're still communicating so that you don't feel isolated. We're so lucky to have, you know, all these social media facilities so that we can continue to communicate and continue to feel like part of a community. You know, we're all people, you know, and so it's important that we keep talking. So yeah, I'd say talking to people, you know, having the opportunity to do something which is going to add value, hopefully, like this. And also the other thing I found really, really helpful in this time is to get to know people around you. So in our road, in my road in Surrey, which is where I am during the week, because again, I have to go to work, is the Kiln Way Residents Association, as it were. And we've got everyone from young families to elderly people, and we've got a WhatsApp group. And not only are we showing, you know, silly videos and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, we had a fruit delivery to our work because, of course, we'd forgotten to cancel it. So we had this plethora of fruit and milk and all the rest of it. So drop out into the WhatsApp group, and I turned into greengrocer and milkman for the road. But then if I was going to the pharmacy, you drop a WhatsApp group and you go, I'm going to the pharmacy, does anyone want me to take anything up? So you grab all the pharmacy things and you take it in. And then we had people saying, I've got magazines, does anyone want to read them? Or, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So getting engaged in your community in any small way that you can will make you feel so much better at this time. You know, it's very easy to become very, very introspective, and there are always people that are more isolated than you, that have got more challenges in terms of their business, you know, that are really, really kind of feeling it. So I really encourage people to not focus so much inwardly and look outwardly, and you'll find the joy that that brings you will be enough to get you through, I hope. And the sense of community that we're establishing is amazing, right? So what a joyful thing that will be the outcome of this, is that we get to know our neighbours and get to interact more with our local business community and get to support people more. I love the fact that that may well be the outcome of that.
Same. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Kate. If anybody wants to get in touch with you following up from this, how can they do that? How would you prefer people to reach you? Or
no, please do. So it's very straightforward. If you look at katelester.com, there's a email that you can touch base with me there, or you can email me via Diamond Logistics, and that's kate@diamondlogistics.co.uk.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Kate.
That's a pleasure. Take care.